What's going on, everybody? I hope you're all doing wonderful. We are back for another monthly portfolio update. Thanks for stopping by to check this out. If you're new here, I like to share updates of this portfolio every single month to share my investing results and give you insights into what it's actually like to invest in the stock market. My ultimate goal is to inspire other people to start their own investing journey, so that they can one day achieve financial independence and live the life that they truly deserve. There's a lot of people out there that like to share how to invest, but they don't actually show you real results. They only show you the good and not the bad. And so I'm here to give complete transparency into this investment portfolio. And my strategy overall has shifted slightly. Initially, I was focused on investing in companies that paid out good dividends, and I still do that today, but that's not my primary focus. For now, I'm trying to invest in companies that have good growth potential. And by that, I mean growth as far as capital gain appreciation and how much they're able to increase their dividends year over year. There's a lot of companies out there that pay a high dividend, but if you look at that dividend over time, it's pretty stagnant or even decreases, and ultimately it's just not sustainable. And mostly I tend to avoid those companies. However, there are many great companies that on the outset may seem like they pay a pretty low dividend, but if you look year over year, they're able to increase that payout, oftentimes by double digits. And so that's really been my focus as of late. But with that said, let's check out some of the numbers here over the past month. And March was a pretty rough month, to say the least. You can see here we started out at roughly $48,000. And then we've pretty much been nosediving since then, dipped all the way down to $45,000, and then picked up just a little bit here to close out the month at $45,800. So that's where we sit today as far as portfolio value goes. And within the last month, that equates to roughly a 5% loss. Definitely not the worst month I ever had, but nonetheless, pretty much everything was in the red. So if we look at some of the sectors here that I have, the biggest loser was consumer. And if we click into that, we can see that pretty much every single one of these companies is in the red. Home Depot down about 12%, Cisco Corporation down 20%, Nike down 27%. So that's pretty big, not gonna lie there. Luckily with Nike, I don't actually hold too much of it. You can see that the weight is pretty low at about 2.4%. The company that I hold the most of in this particular sector here is Costco, and they were actually in the green, but they were up only 1.2%. And I guess this is why I really like investing in a company like Costco. It seems like regardless of the economic situation, people go there. So for me, this is more of a defensive hold. But honestly, the share price of Costco has been pretty good the past few years, and this is another one of those companies that has been able to increase their dividend payouts fairly well year over year. But overall, consumer got decimated pretty hard. Another area that didn't perform well was healthcare. Eli Lilly, for example, down over 8%, Johnson & Johnson 2%, AbbVie and Procter & Gamble 10 and 12% respectively. And then you can see a lot of other sectors are kind of down in that negative 4 to 7% range. However, I did actually have one sector that performed in the green this month, and that was energy. And the thing with energy companies is that for the most part, they're not going to see massive growth or decline in any given time period. They're pretty slow and steady gainers. But for this month, EPD, they were up almost 2%, ExxonMobil 4%, and then DTE and Consolidated Edison 1 and 3% respectively. So while pretty much everything else was in the red, I did have energy to pull me up just a little bit, which is nice, and that's why I like to diversify my holdings, because when some sectors perform bad, there's others that may perform good, and hopefully they can help nudge the portfolio in the right direction, and over the long term, you can see some steady growth. And I guess that's another point I did want to emphasize as well. This is just a time frame of 1 month. However, for me, I'm more focused on the long-term trend, and so if I check that out here, I can see that we are certainly on the right path. You definitely got your ups and downs if you focus on a certain timeline, but generally, if you pick good companies to invest in and stick to your strategy over the long term, you should see pretty good results. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the dividends and see what we actually got paid out in March. All right, we started out with Aflac at $17.11. Pretty hefty dividend payment there. I do hold a fair amount of Aflac, so that's why their payout was on the higher end. Next, we have pharmaceutical company Johnson & Johnson. They paid $7.34 this month. Then we go into Eli Lilly, and they paid just over $3. ExxonMobil is next, and they paid out $3.84, just broken up by two payments here. And then technology company Microsoft, another company that pays a very, very low dividend, but their share price has been hockey stick growth, and they've been able to increase by essentially double digits year after year, which is pretty nice. But this month they paid $2.29. 3M is next, and they paid $2.06. Realty Income Corporation, this is a monthly paying company, and if you follow dividend-focused investors, a lot of them have this company just because it has been such a reliable dividend type company, but they paid $6.43. Consolidated Edison, $1.28. McDonald's, $3.74 from them. BlackRock, this is one of the largest financial companies in the entire world. They paid $8.83. Vanguard's VYM ETF paid out $15.40. Home Depot, $4.99. Waste Management, $3.19. Next, we got SPHD. This is a monthly paying ETF, and they paid $10.42. Then we got Broadcom, and they paid a little over $8. And then to cap off March, we got a little over $7 from Brookfield Infrastructure Partners. So when we add all the dividend payments up for this month, the total comes to $106.11. And that is going to complete quarter one of 2026. The total quarter dividend payments amounts to about $250. And just by dividend growth alone, we're going to exceed last year's total. But quarter one is always just a little bit slower than the other quarters. But either way, $249, not too bad. By the way, if you guys do want this spreadsheet to track your own dividend payouts, I'll leave a link in the description below to the same spreadsheet, and you can just make a copy and save it for yourself. And real quick here, I just like to see how these dividend payouts break down over different time frames. So for example, I take the most recent 3 months of dividend payouts, and then I break it down by how much I would be earning yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, and hourly, just to give me a little bit more perspective. So for example, every single day, this portfolio is paying me about $2.73 for doing absolutely nothing, just sitting there in cruise control. Now, obviously, I hope to get this a lot higher, but we all got to start somewhere, and this is where I am today. So something I would certainly encourage you to do. But with that said, that is going to wrap up the video. Thank you all so much for taking the time to check it out. If you did enjoy it, please hit that like button. And if you want more content from me, feel free to hit that subscribe button as well. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again, and until next time, take care.